Everybody, I'm so excited to talk with you today. I have my copy of Pussy right here. I read it several years ago, and it really embodies what I've been teaching women for the past decades. I am living proof about how sexual pleasure and sensual pleasure can change your life and how it has changed every part of my life, from the bedroom to the boardroom. I've spent many years researching, interviewing, coaching clients, and I've been a pioneer in the non-toxic body safe product line in sexual wellness, because I found out that really early on that chemicals that are outlawed in children's toys aren't outlawed in adult products, and we put those in the most absorbent parts of our body. So it's all about pleasure. I spend countless hours every year learning alongside medical doctors and professionals, and I train and mentor doctors and pelvic physical therapists on product safety and how to run their practices more efficiently. I've heard several of you mention in the last couple of weeks that of feeling out of touch with your feminine energy and working from more of a masculine place, kind of being disconnected. And I totally resonated with that, because in my past life, I was a corporate trainer and general manager for a really large restaurant group, and I ran my own multi-million-dollar restaurant. And that industry is very male dominated. And I really blamed a lot of the problems that I was having in my life, that I couldn't make that switch, that on-off switch from being very masculine at work to coming home and being very feminine in who I actually was. And when I did see women try to be feminine and nurturing in the workplace, it was to their detriment. And so it was really becoming a toxic environment for myself. And I began to look at how this affects relationships when we're masculine in one part of our life and we come home and we're expected to be feminine, or we want to be. That's who we are. That is why I left corporate America and designed my new career around who I really am. And it's not new anymore. So I've been in business 11 years, but I'm a sexual being. I wanted to have my life and my business be congruent in every way. And there's no longer a work me and a private me. It's just my house, and everything around me reflects who I am and what I do. I like to dress sexy. I like to dress pretty. I am a girly girl. I have shoes and hats and furs all over my house as my decorations, because that's who I am. And I really know that so many women feel the way that I did, a very, you have to, it's a man's world. You have to be like this. You have to act like this. And I think it can come from a different place. I mean, I used to have to wear polyester pantsuits and slip resistant shoes, which are the least sexy thing that you can pretty much wear. So I was trapped in a different body, but we've seen how that really affects femininity and women in the workplace since, that IBM kind of typical shoulder pad suits from the 80s, and how more and more relationships are not working out because we are strong, powerful women, and we need to be that way, but in standing in how we want to be. And if you want to be masculine, that's great as well, but just as long as you're congruent to yourself and really connected. So how I got into what I do now is several decades ago, I left a narcissistic relationship. Unfortunately, it was not my first, but I realized that I had never had an orgasm. And I always felt like I had a very high sex drive. I always wanted sex. I was always thinking about sex. And I thought that something was wrong with me. And what I found was that I didn't want necessarily more sex. I wanted better sex. And I didn't even know what that looked like, because as a young woman, I grew up in a conservative Idaho, and we weren't taught about pleasure. We were only taught about consequences with sex and sensuality. We've all heard you're going to get pregnant, you're going to get an STD, you're going to have a bad reputation. And that was all we learned. We didn't learn that sex is a beautiful thing, that it's pleasure. And then when getting into a relationship later on, it's like, oh, I want to have sex all the time, but I have that shame and that messaging that's been taught to me my entire life. And even looking at women's magazines and now the internet, everything about sex was based on pleasing a man and not about my pleasure. Even Cosmo, it's like 10 ways to please your man, not how can I have an orgasm. And so since then, it's been my mission to empower women. I took myself on a journey where I learned to love and appreciate my body, how to touch myself, how to orgasm on my own. And I teach women how to tap into their sexual confidence and experience amazing orgasms. It's life-changing, and it really begins with self-pleasure. People who orgasm 3 times a week or more experience 50% less heart disease and earn higher wages than those who don't. Men report that they self-pleasure about 61% to women only 38%. Basically, this means that men masturbate about 23% more than women, and the gender wage gap begins at 21%. So I believe there's a big correlation right there. And we're going to talk all about the benefits of self-pleasure and why that is in just a few minutes. Basically, healthier, well-sexed people make more money, have higher self-confidence, and are more productive and have better reasoning ability. Before I had my first orgasm, I was unhappy, depressed. I weighed almost 100 pounds less than I do now, and I thought I was fat. I would never wear shorts. I would have definitely never worn a bikini in public like I did when we were in Cabo. And for some reason, I could never get my skin to look like the ladies on the magazine covers or in the ads, even though I worked in the cosmetic industry. And I was lost and unmotivated, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And that's when I turned on to my own sexual pleasure and my own potential and began to explore self-pleasure. And learning about my body was something that I didn't learn about. You know, almost all the states that teach sex education, only 24 states does it have to be medically correct. And in most of those states, you can't mention the word clitoris or pleasure in a sex ed class. So that is where it all, if we can't even know our body parts, it's very difficult for us to know how to pleasure. And when I learned about that, taking a mirror and looking and feeling my body, my confidence grew, and I took a new career path and got paid more than anyone in that position had ever even been paid. And it was just because I asked. So it was 300% more than what anyone had ever been paid in that position. And it was just what I asked for. So what this did for me is once I began having orgasms, it continued to expand to the next level. I got into alignment with what I really wanted, but not just in the bedroom. Yes, I could communicate to a partner what it meant and what I needed. But what I really found is that I came across so many women that are struggling in their lives because they're afraid to ask for what they want. So I help them put themselves first and connect with their sexual energy. And when the bottom line is that really when we have more pleasure in our lives, we make more money. So you all know those people who walk into a room and turn heads, like Gabrielle. You just want what they're buying. You're like, I want what she's got. Those are highly sexual people. And it's not anything new. Napoleon Hill wrote about this in Think and Grow Rich, about the most powerful people in the world. Of course, it was men back then, are highly sexual beings. And those were the leaders of the world. So my method that I use is called the sexy method. It is sensual empowerment. Experiences begin with you. It's pleasure begins with loving yourself and your body. It's really hard to be sensual and connected when you're disconnected from who you are and not in full love of yourself. And just for ease of going forward for tonight, this afternoon, wherever you are, I'm going to use the word women just for convenience, but I mean all vulva owners. And the vulva is this whole area of our anatomy, not just, we hear vagina a lot, which is the reproductive canal, but the whole vulva is what we're going to be talking about. And again, this isn't even in a lot of medical books, and it was taken out after a Victorian age. So it's not our fault that we don't know anything, because even doctors don't know all of the correct anatomy. And the whole clitoris wasn't even mapped out until 1995. So we're still in the forefront of learning about women and our pleasure. And pleasure is your birthright. It's your body and your life force energy. All life comes from our essence. And so you are the creator and manifester in your life. But the pleasure gap is real. When I mention sex also, it can be with yourself or a partner. It doesn't, instead of just keep saying self-pleasure, I'm just going to use sex. It can be with yourself or a partner. And the pleasure gap is the difference in how much men have pleasure and orgasms in intercourse than when women. So some of these statistics are going to probably shock you. 40% of women, or maybe not, 40% of women would rather go shopping than have sex. 48% of women would rather give up sex than their cell phone. And 50% of women who have been married more than 20 years are fine going without sex for the rest of their lives. When you're closed down sexually, you're not only not living your life out fully, but you're compromising your pleasure and settling for less. Sex is a beautiful thing, and it's so powerful. One of my favorite quotes is from Oscar Wilde, and it's everything in the world about sex except sex. Sex is about power. And that's where we as women need to bring this back, because the power balance is off in our world. And when you have more pleasure in your life, it not only shows in your aura, it shows in your face and your demeanor as well. And again, it's not your fault that you don't know this or know how to experience it if you haven't. You know, most people, only 79% of women experience orgasms at all. And most of those are not through penetrative intercourse. So today I'm going to share with you 3 benefits of self-pleasure and how you can increase abundance in your life with more sexual satisfaction. But before I get into this, I want to share with you some correlations about sex and money. So women, much more than men, have an issue of charging what they're worth or accepting a salary that's not to their ability. We are brought up to not talk about sex or money. Sex, money, and power go hand in hand. And if you think about some of the core beliefs that we're taught, I think they really can be interchanged with sex and money. So when we ask for what we deserve and what we desire, it's seen as selfish, right? Because we should be humble. We talked about this last week. We should accept what's being offered. You're lucky to have a job, right? How many times have you heard that? Oh, that you should be so lucky that you got offered that amount of money. Luckily, I was mentored by some men who championed women in my career early on, and they shared with me that I could ask for more than what was offered. And that wasn't even a concept I even knew. For example, once I moved quite a bit for the company, and they're like, okay, here's your moving truck. You have to find somebody to pack it, everything, blah, blah, blah. And you get $500, let's say, for boxes. And my executive chef, who is a good friend of mine, he's like, no, he's like, you can ask for $2,500 and they're going to say yes. They're going to send you someone to pack it too if you just ask for it. And I never even knew that that was a possibility. I didn't know I could negotiate my salary. I thought what I was offered was what I was given. And I can guarantee you that men don't ever ask if they're going to be viewed as a bitch or cranky or anything if they ask for what they want. Our thoughts really do subconsciously rule us. And when we change our thoughts, we change our lives. I know that you all believe that. And when we open ourselves up to receive, whether it's pleasure or the opening up to receive money, the flow of prosperity is open. And sexuality and pleasure are our birthright. They're our vital life force energy. Only 47% of women have used a vibrator, even though 79% of women don't have an orgasm from intercourse alone. And incorporating a vibrator into your sexy time can increase your ability to have orgasms. And women who use vibrators take better care of themselves with sexual health and are ranked higher on the female sexual functioning index. Looking at it as a business owner, these women are also more likely to have well women exams, and preventive health care really helps with keeping costs down with healthy employees. It can save you money with less time off, with more productivity. And so in the end, it puts money in your pocket that way as a business owner. And when we shut down sexually, we're closing out that flow of money in business, and it doesn't flow to us as easily. It's proven that people who have less sex make less money, and people who have less money have less sex. As a coach, I really work to move my clients forward by clearing out this reprogramming of the neural pathways that we've been talking about and ridding the self-conscious mind of negative thought patterns around the shame of sex, money, abundance, and power. Now on to the 3 benefits that I'm going to give you today for self-pleasure. If you think about it, there's a variety of words for male masturbation, but none for female. For young boys and young men, it's like kind of a rite of passage to masturbate, but women were told, oh, good girls don't do that. And it's across every culture, continent, religion, society. It's not one or another. It's across all of them. I hear the same messages from women that I've worked with all over the world. And when we self-pleasure, we become more confident instead of inhibited. So self-pleasure is the ultimate self-care. When we practice self-pleasure, we are more likely to have an orgasm because we don't stop right before we hit the gold. When vulva owners self-pleasure, 94% of them reach an orgasm, compared to partnered sex can be as low as 4% up to about 64%. So that's a huge amount. When we can do it ourselves, we do almost always get there, but when we're having intercourse, we usually don't. And when we self-pleasure, we learn about ourselves, what we like, and our emotions are our own and not spent on someone else. It eliminates that need and really gets to that true desire. When I work with women who want to date, I make sure that they're self-pleasuring, because a lot of times they're just wanting a relationship and so bad that it's that neediness that comes across instead of getting what they truly desire. And it also aids in helping to communicate to a partner what you really want. But most importantly, when we talk about orgasms and pleasure in general, you're going to get oxytocin from pleasure and from touch. You're going to get more when you have an orgasm. So the oxytocin is the cuddle chemical. It's known to create those emotional bonds between people. So when you have sex with a partner, it creates an emotional bond. But when we create our own orgasms, the oxytocin stays in our own system and creates self-love. It helps to overcome body hate, body shame. It helps with that positive body image. It helps us feel sexier and more confident. And a study has shown that when people masturbate 4 times a week versus just once a week, they earn 3.2% more. And for women, if you move from having 1 orgasm a month to 1 a week, it's like giving yourself a $50,000 raise on the happiness scale. So, but oftentimes we're seeing this as, oh, it's selfish. I don't have the time, or I'm ashamed, and I'm too tired to put myself first. I see this especially with moms, is that everything comes before you, when really you should come first so that you can be the best at everything else that you do. I talk to a lot of women, and I even a few weeks ago, I was at a party and was talking to a lady, and she was like, no, I don't want to do it myself. I want someone to do it for me. And that means she's relying on someone else for pleasure instead of being in charge of it herself. These pleasurable experiences, those are fantastic as well. I'm not saying not have partnered sex, but to make sure that you include your own pleasure as well, because where else in your life is it showing up that you want, or letting someone else take control, or letting them lead, waiting for the white knight to come and fund your business, or wait around for other things. I know I was guilty of that in my past. I thought it was just going to show up, but until I started really embodying my pleasure, it didn't. And it's okay to not know where to start. That's why I'm here. Or you may not even know what pleasure looks like because it's been pushed to the back for so long. Here's a way that is really great to just even start, to put into your routine. We go through our lives and through our day, and we touch ourselves all the time, but what we forget to do is feel. And so just beginning with feeling ourself and our skin, that brings us oxytocin to the surface, hugs. But when we're talking about self-care, just even the next time that you take a bath or a shower, take a few minutes to feel the water on your skin, to feel those sensations. What temperature is it? How does it feel? What does it smell like? What does it look like? How does, do you get little goosebumps? Do the hairs raise on your arms? What is happening with your body? And then take a couple extra minutes. I'm not saying add in right away full session, but just when you're rubbing your body lotion on, or your coconut oil, or whatever you choose to use. Use the one that you've been saving for a special occasion, because I have a whole closet of those that I'm trying to use more often. But just really massage it into your skin instead of like slap, 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 got to run out the door. Kids crying, but just take a couple extra minutes. And again, feel the texture of your skin, feel the temperature. What do you notice? How does that feel to you? And one of my favorite activities is from Masters and Johnson. They were sex researchers back in the 50s, and it's called Sensate Touch. And it really, was their way of bringing, heightening female arousal. And I'm going to give you an audio to take you through this at the end, but you can just take your hands and just where your fingertips connect to your skin, just focus on that and just do it all over your body. And I have a guided one that you can do later. It's not sexual at all. It's just those sensations so that you can focus and get out of your mind and really just focus on the sensations. It's really quite amazing. So I want to tell you a story about my client. She's 65 years old. Her name's Maritza, and she has been looking, she's worked for me. She's also my virtual assistant. She's been looking for 2 years for this man to fulfill her. It's always what she's talking about. I need a man, I need a man, I need a man. And she came to my retreat, and we do quite a few exercises on this. And I have them self-pleasure and they have time for that. And she told me that she felt sexy for the very first time in her life. And just the radiance that came from her, she was smiling and happy. And she was like, I don't need a man. Now I know that I can have one in my life, but I love myself first. So the second way that we're going to talk about self-pleasure is we talked about it activates the oxytocin and releases the chemicals in your brain. One of those chemicals, one second, that is released upon climax is testosterone. One, this boosts your libido, but more importantly, testosterone blocks a pain receptor in your brain that decreases the pain response, which allows you to have the ability to do things that are outside of your comfort zone, like take more risk, push through discomfort, get out of your own way, try new things. And really where this works for us in business, it encourages us to ask for the sale, to get paid what you deserve for your services. And again, we're taught, be humble, take what's offered, be grateful for what you have. But I want you to know that you often don't see what others sees in you, and our self-worth can really plummet when you're not true to yourself. And when we're not making the money that we know we deserve, that really affects our self-worth as well. The world needs your voice and your talents, and do what's selfish. What is selfish isn't selfish. It's holding you back from those who really need you. And you're all beautiful, brilliant humans that the world needs you. And the world, it's just one of those things. We really need more female power in the world. So I challenge you that the next time that you're going into a sales call or into a presentation or speaking on stage or even to a networking event, the things that are normally uncomfortable for you, I challenge you to self-pleasure before then and see how you go into that. I was working with an Olympic track coach here in Southern California, and she was telling me that she always has her athletes self-pleasure the night before competition because it reduces stress. It improves blood flow, improves concentration, and calms the nerves. And there's been a landmark study also that 59% of Olympic athletes who engaged in self-pleasure the night before competition experienced increased acceleration, agility, and strength up to 13%, where those who had partner sex only increased 3.1%. So calmness, reduced stress, endurance, those are important in everyday life, not just in athletics. And using your self-pleasure to attract confidence and energy and power, it attracts those people to you that want what you have, that gives you that confidence to ask for what you do. And when pleasure is repressed, so is your power. The patriarchal dominance in our world is evident, and female pleasure has been squelched for over 5,000 years across all the cultures, all countries, religions. And it can be a subtle repression to flat out the removing of the clitoris, the only organ that's actually for pleasure. So female power and pleasure literally sometimes has been cut off. The power balance is off. We see that everywhere in our world, and pleasure is a birthright. It's not shameful or taboo. The messages that we're force-fed to women would never fly with penis owners. And you can see this even in the way that we accept compliments as women. Most women, you compliment them and they're like, oh, I got this at Target. It's so old, or it's just like, just say thank you. And men, they can look pretty crappy sometimes, and you say, oh, I like your buttons on your shirt, and they're like, oh, I'm the hottest thing ever. And we shy away from that typically as women, and we need to change that, because when we self-pleasure, that will give us that power. I really know that it does. And standing in your power pose, just like that Wonder Woman pose with your hands on your hips, can be a start of bringing that oxytocin to you. And just taking that few minutes of yourself of standing there in the power, connecting to yourself, to your core, and then learning how to learn about your body. And the Hewlett Packard did a study not too long ago about how they were having problems with women applying for upper management positions. And they found that if they posted a job, women would only apply for the job if they were 100% qualified. And men would apply for the job if they were 62% qualified. We often think that we have to be overly overly, can't think of the word, like really overly qualified for everything before we take those leaps and those moves to do something better. I have a client who was looking for a new position, and I was like, oh, here's a job, you should apply for this. My friend's company is hiring. She's like, oh, it says I need to have multi-unit experience. And it says I need to have been a regional director. And I said, well, you may not have had that title, but you've managed multiple restaurants and rolled out multiple restaurant concepts for big companies. And it was just that shift in her brain of, oh, I've done that. It's just not listed as how I thought. And so we rewrote her resume, and she could apply for a lot more positions than she thought. And even a lot of the moms I work with, they're like, oh, I've been out of work for so long. I don't know what to put out. I don't have any skills. No, you're managing a household. That's project management, logistics, travel. People get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to be house managers for celebrities and for wealthy. So I encourage you to step into your pleasure and to move forward with what we've talked about today. And we'll put this all in the chat, but I have a special guide for Sensate Touch to connect you to your body. Very non-sexual, again, it's very sensual, and that's for everybody. And then I have a discount that I'll put the website and the code for 20% off all products on my website, enticeme.com. And that's good towards the end of the chat, or end of the course, I'm sorry. And then to take it to the next level, I have a new masterclass called the Velvet Pussy. It's accessing your power and sexual power to attract abundance, close sales, and look and feel your best. So if you want to start here, it's a great way to begin to look at your body and how the Orgasm Trifecta will up your pussy power and pleasure. We start with anatomy and connecting to your inner sexuality and inner sensuality, and it will map out pleasure for your life. So well-sexed people have higher confidence and make more money. I know I can look at my clients and their success rates, and it directly correlates to the time that they're self-pleasuring. When I start to feel a lull or a lack of focus or even a bit on edge, I take some me time and I schedule it into my day. I have one more story for you about sex and money. I had my client Marielle had applied for it. She interviewed for a job and she got the job, but she was so excited that she accepted it and it wasn't what she thought she would get paid. And she totally quit her job, other job, everything. And so we had our session and she's like, I'm really disappointed. This is not enough money. I need to make more money. And so I was like, okay, before you go into that final conversation of benefits and everything, I want you to self-pleasure. And she did. And she came back later that day, called me and said, I got $10,000 more than they offered me originally. And they agreed to let me revisit my salary in 2 months instead of 6 months. And I've seen that time and time again. And so if you're interested in my course, my masterclass, it's a $750 value. It's $197 if you sign up before the end of the month. And if you sign up today, you'll get a 20-minute call with me, my personal Power of Pleasure call. And so we'll put all those links in the chat as well. And I just want to say thank you for letting me talk with you. And Mae West said it best, an orgasm a day keeps the doctors away.